Hello again. Now, airlines around the world are adjusting their schedules and aircraft deployments for flights to the United States of America over fears that the 5G rollout near airports there will disrupt flights. Dubai's Emirates said it will suspend flights to several U.S. cities, while Japan Airlines and ANA Holdings said they won't fly their 777 jets to and from the U.S. mainland after a warning from Boeing about the model's altimeter will be affected. Now, so how does 5G impact the radar or navigation systems of an aircraft? Let's talk to Bryan, a data analyst at Worx. Bryan, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Is there fear that the planes will come down because of 5G in the US? And is this 5G problem only in the US?
Good afternoon. Yeah, it's pretty much only in the US, and it's not that the planes will fall out of the sky, so to say. It's that in the US, they have deployed 5G in a band that is very close to the band that the altimeters run in. So they've licensed their mobile operators to operate on 3.7 to almost 4 gigahertz band. And the altimeters run on 4.2 to 4.5. So as you can see from that, it's very close and they may interfere with one another.
Why did the Americans do that?
Money. Money is the big seller for that. And I mean, many countries have been advised to steer clear between 3.6 and 4. And even in South Africa, we only sell up to 3.6 to businesses. The rest has to be reserved for research and to find ways that we can come close to this without interfering. But no one in the world has really found a way to come close to the 4.2 without interfering with aircraft equipment.
Now, is there a possibility here, I mean, you are the data analyst guy, you should know this, of countries shifting that band for altimeters to be higher?
That has already started. So the Boeing and Airbus models that have issues with their altimeters have had these issues for quite a while because they were deployed on this 4.2 to 4.5 band. And the world is quite hungry to get up to that 4 gigahertz space. So a lot of aircrafts aren't going to be interfered with, but there are many that will still be, especially the older ones.
So the older models are likelier than new models with 5G that were constructed with 5G in mind to be affected by these. I know we're talking about America, but as you were answering there, I was wondering, in South Africa, are we safe? Are we good? I mean, as we roll out 5G, our aeroplanes won't be affected.
That's correct. We only allow deployment up to 3.6, and then thereafter 6 gigahertz after that. So that whole space where the altimeter operates in on all aircrafts is well clear and won't be interfered with.
Yeah, but when you read the stories about all these airlines that are staying away from US cities, I mean, that's not going to be good for business for them, eh?
Definitely. I think that any flight cancellations, I mean, especially among COVID, all the waves have hit them hard, and now this is now another thing that's hitting them hard. I think that their FCC, which is their ICASA equivalent, should have really thought about auctioning off those bands before they sold them.
Would that have helped? I mean, if they were auctioned off, because isn't the end game the same? You auction off, you're still selling, you get some money at the end. How could that have helped?
Well, they would have to have restricted that 3.6 to 4 gigahertz space, like our ICASA has. The FCC has just tried to sell as much and tried to get as much money as possible in the classic American fashion. So
okay,
now they've hit a snag.
Yeah, it's a big snag. I mean, if you got Dubai Emirates suspending flights to several of the US cities, Japan Airlines, and so on, and Boeing said, hey, our 777 jets have got problems. I mean, it's really like it's a big issue for them. But the newer airplanes, from what you are saying, not just Boeing, I mean, even the Airbuses of this world, they've taken into consideration the advent of 5G because, as you've said, the world is hungry for that spectrum.
That's correct. I mean, the whole world has been on hold except for the US. They just decided to auction off that spectrum that was likely to interfere, and now we know does interfere with aircrafts. But the whole world has been holding off, and they've been saying 3.6 is the safe limit, and everywhere else in the world has deployed, including here, up to 3.6, and our aircrafts are fine. I think the moment that the US deployed up to 3.98, which is nearly 4, that really does interfere with altimeters. And it's important to note that it only really affects them on landing and takeoff. So the altimeter just tells the plane how far off the ground it is. And that's very important when you're landing. So a 5G tower in the same vicinity as an airport interfering with this is a big problem.
Yeah. What kind of interference could it be? It could give the wrong reading to the pilots in terms of estimating the distance to the ground, for example. Is that kind of interference that it could, or it could send it just the wrong way?
It miscalculates the distance from the ground. So pilots have to slow down the aircraft at a certain altitude when they're closer to the tarmac, really. And what happens with the interference is that it causes a delay. So oftentimes in the cases that they've seen is that pilots have to land the planes themselves, which is very unusual nowadays because it's usually mostly automated and helped with mission control and whatnot. So now we have the case where the altimeter is saying that the plane is higher than it actually is. So that means it's going faster than it should be. And that's where the big problem comes in.
Yeah, and one can point out from the reports I've seen, Bryan, is that it's not all American airports or cities that have got this problem. It's several of them. Am I correct?
That's correct. It's mainly the metro areas. So AT&T, which is one of the bigger players in the US, they've only really deployed in the big places like New York City, Los Angeles, Miami. Those big city center hubs that will likely be using 5G technology have got their 5G equipment all over the city, all over their metro areas. So, I mean, landing a plane in Wyoming, for example, that probably won't be a problem.